morning, good day, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are, and welcome back to Achampnator Reads. This time we continue The Last Elf with chapter 31. The moment the elf had come in surrounded by guards, Robbie's heart had started beating faster. He was even more handsome than she remembered. He had come for her. He had assumed the task of freeing her, since her mother and father were no longer alive. Robbie had experienced the acute suffering of no longer being someone's child. Her life, her death, her hunger, her grace. His knees no longer trusted anyone. Now all of a sudden, she was at the center of the world. A real boy with immense powers and handsome as the sun was risking his life for her. He was there with his hands tied behind his back, afraid of nothing, because he was sure he would be able to save her. Then the judge administrator had spoken of the prophecy, and Robbie's heart had flooded with light. It was her. She was the one who had the visions that told her what was about to happen. Her father and her mother had given her a name that contained the magical moment in the morning, when the light begins to spread across the world, and the hope of a good day to come is still intact. Her mother told her that every morning when she woke her, even if it was raining or snowing outside, and there was no light. Robbie was a nickname. She was Rosalba, the pink light that is reborn each morning, promising a good day ahead. Fortunately, caution had silenced her, and then the judge had begun to talk about his own daughter, Dawn. The ray of light that had filled her heart now turned into a flute of icy mud, and all that remained was a strange sensation in the upper part of her belly, like something halfway between hunger and a hiccup, like when Flash noticed that she had stolen something. Robbie knew Dawn. She had seen her when escorted by half the county's army. She had entered Delagar. The paths had crossed just past the great gate. Robbie on her donkey and Dawn on her crimson and ivory litter. Robbie had been speechless. The other girl was the prettiest she had ever seen. She had the face of an angel, framed by her blonde hair, and the collar of a gold brocade dress. Her hair was wound in a series of braids that echoed the patterns embroidered on her bodice. Robbie had sat gazing at her with her mouth agape, and the girl had given her the unmistakable glance of someone looking at a cockroach. Robbie had felt just like a cockroach. Well, yes, actually, she was a bit of a cockroach. 2 years had passed since the last time she had her hair done. She hadn't washed since the second to last shower of rain the previous summer. The last one had happened at night, and she had missed it. The autumn rains soaked your feet and froze them, but you stayed dirty. And Dawn was at least a foot taller than Robbie. When her parents had still been alive, her mother told her that she had her father's eyes, and her father told her that she had her mother's smile. And the faces of both lit up when they looked at her. But now her parents weren't there for their faces to light up. They weren't there to say such things. Until a few moments previously, all she had wanted was to be able to go on living. Now it wasn't enough for Yorsh to save her. She wanted him to be hers. But the other girl was infinitely more beautiful than Robbie. But no, it was she. Robbie, Rosalba. the pink light of morning, who was the wife heralded in the prophecy. She knew it when the judge had called the, the predictions of dawn were stupid nonsense. She was the one who saw things. Yes, that was what clairvoyance meant. Seeing things before they happened. The daughter of the man and the woman who hated him. What kind of prophecy would that be? Half the people in the world hated elves. Everybody hated elves. Everybody but Monster and Zarya. The word was saved, not hated. The daughter of the man and the woman who saved him. The daughter of Monzer and Zarya. The one who bore the name of the morning light. Clearly, she was the granddaughter of a granddaughter of the Lord of Light. The Lord must have been somewhere among the grandparents of her grandparents, of her grandparents, of the great grandparents, or her great grandparents, or the great grandparents, of her great grandparents, and anyway, who knows anything about the grandparents and their great grandparents? They could be anybody. Why not the Lord of Light, as they said he was called? Robbie asked Josh for confirmation. Decent could mean having the same blood and clairvo. Well, that thing meant that the future formed inside your head, and you knew it before it happened. Now that the young elf had talked to her about the sea, she had finally understood the meaning of the blues that filled her head every time she closed her eyes. As they dashed along ever narrower and ever darker tunnels where magnificent elfish patterns pursued one another across the walls, Robbie felt her joy and calm growing from tunnel to tunnel, from ivy leaf to ivy leaf. That man Art, the guy with the light, wouldn't have dreamed of them, so that they would die hanging from a gallows, or in the bowels of the earth like a pair of rats. She was about to tell Josh about her name, about her visions, when her joy grew numb inside, turning into a kind of cold stone in the upper part of her belly. Would he be hers because she wanted him to be, or because it was written on the wall? That is, did the Lord of Light, and anyway, that one, did he see the things you were going to do, or the things you were supposed to do? And what if Josh, spent his life with her, thinking about that other one, Dawn? Once again, that face passed through her memory, almost as beautiful as an elf. That other girl wasn't all knees and elbows and sticking out teeth. Once flesh and had looked Robbie up and down and told her in her sweet and disappointed voice that, dark as she was, she really did look like a cockroach. A cockroach with the teeth of a rat. She had said with a sigh that we can't all be born beautiful. And besides, she, Dawn, probably knew how to write. And and she would eat her beans like a lady. She wouldn't just gobble them down as Robbie had done. When Josh had given them to her, their hands and touched his long, pale, perfect hand, had touched her little dirty one with its chewed and blackened nails. Robbie looked at her skeletal, muddy gray uh, knees and felt like a cockroach once again. She asked Josh about Dawn, and the nod he gave in reply drowned her in dejection. Once again, she closed her mouth. She wouldn't tell him that she was his future wife. Never. She would rather not become his wife than know he had chosen her to fulfill the prophecy. Finally, after examining it carefully and for a long time, Josh had grasped how the set of bars worked. The central part was connected to the rest of by four tiny slender gold stalks twined around a copper wire, as he explained it to Robbie. They would have to increase the temperature so that the gold stalks melted away like the last snow in the spring sun. He managed to make the heat with his head, not in the sense of banging his head against the bars, but in the sense that he thought of heat, and some of the little metal rods that held up the bars heated up until they melted away, just like snow in the sun. Once enough of the bars were gone, the world was wider. On the other side, there was an enormous grotto with big columns of rock, some of which rose up from the ground, while others fell from the ceiling. There was a loud sound of water. Everything was encrusted with gold, which sparkled in the torchlight as though it had been sprinkled with stars. As George explained to her, these columns were called stalak-somethings. The ones that rose from below and the ones that came from above were called something almost the same. The cave was underneath the river Dogon. The water had dug everything out, and because the Dogon is a river that contains gold speck by speck, the cave had been covered in it. Robbie didn't really understand how the water could have dug anything, because to dig you need a spade and two hands to hold it. And water hasn't got any of those three things. But she didn't ask for explanations. Josh's voice and his smile when he explained things were magnificent. And besides, probably the other girl would have understood, and Robbie couldn't let herself look stupid. The unmistakable noise of the soldiers clanking armor rang out behind them. Beach had gotten stuck in the bars, and Clover was pushing him with all his might. Still cramped in the middle of the swirls of gold and silver ivy, Beach smiled. "We followed you, step after step," he told them triumphantly. "We followed your voices." "Otherwise we'd have got lost in the maze," Clover finished. "The madman wanted to have us hanged," Beach went on red with effort, for pouring half a pint of beer over his head. "You don't mind if we join up with you?" asked Clover. "Just to get out of here. After that we'll go off and mind our own business. Apart from anything else, if they come after you, we'll have slowed them down," Beach concluded happily, showing them the big bunch of keys. "We've got the keys. They have to find themselves a blacksmith, and that isn't going to be easy. The last one left was hanged 2 days ago." "We've brought you your things as well," said Clover, holding out the little boat, the doll, the bow, the arrows, and the book. "You will bring us to safety as well, won't you?" Yosh and Robbie were speechless. They stared silently at the two newcomers, just as they might have looked at a talking fish or a donkey with wings. Clover was still pushing Beach with all his might, but without managing to shift him an inch, asked with a hint of impatience whether by any chance, rather than staring at them like two pretty statuettes, they couldn't perhaps take the trouble to give them a hand. What made you come after us?" asked Josh as soon as he had his voice back. The two men started talking over one another. "I told you he would have hung us. Half a pint of beer on his noggin. You don't know him. Well, no, when I think about it, you do know him. We don't want to die. And besides," they finally concluded in unison, "you're magical. Even Arlene knew that you were destined to live. If we're with you, we'll live too, and get out of here alive," they added triumphantly. For some mysterious reason, Josh made a strange face. It was the face of someone who isn't happy. but more or less the face of someone who has just discovered that the only thing he had found to eat has just been brought back to life, or that he's been told that there are chances to be duck. The face that is of someone who isn't just dissatisfied, but has a fever as well. Josh walked over to the bars and started to look for another point where they might be demolished. The original Alpha's workmanship hadn't anticipated soldiers trying to break their way through. In the end, the matter was resolved by Josh tugging with all his might, while Clover pushed with all his might and Beach cursed with all his might. And with everybody's might all together, the soldier came free and fell to the ground with a disconcertingly loud clank, although he suffered no serious damage. "Fine," said Beach, after struggling back to his feet. "But now, could we please get going? The moment we're outside, we will go off to mind our own business. And our business is that we've got to pick up our families." "I've got 4 children and he's got 5, explained Clover. "We have to go home to get them, or the moment they notice we've escaped, the madman will take it out on our wives and children." Josh's expression grew even darker. It looked like the expression of someone who's developed a fever and septic boils and a desire to throw up. That was chapter 31. Next time it continues with chapter 32. But till now, see ya.